What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires, and as promised, the brand new trailer for Loki Season 2 dropped this morning. Now, unbelievably, it's almost all new footage, very few frames recycled from the footage they showed last year at D23. Some new characters in here. We're going to talk about who they are, some old characters returning that might now be variants. We're going to go through here with a fine-tooth comb, break it down, Easter eggs, things you might have missed. We'll also talk about some major plot points, and of course, the inclusion of none other than Jonathan Majors' Victor Timely, who, according to my source, was not going to be recast for this series, and it appears as though that's true. We're breaking down the entirety of Loki Season 2's trailer, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at this channel, and that's all we do. Everything from official Easter egg breakdowns, trailers, and reviews, to the occasional industry insider report, and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. That will automatically enter you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. The next one is right around the corner. Again, all you got to do, be a sub, leave a comment on this video if you want, stick around to the end of the video, we get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so presumably the trailer opens up where Season 2 opens up as well, because you have Mobius taking Loki, who's now back at the TVA after having been at the end of time with Sylvie. Remember, she cast him out and ended up killing He Who Remains, which apparently set the multiverse loose, but really there's so many explainers for that across the MCU over the last 2 years. We'll have to wait and see what the definitive answer is. In the meantime, and during that scene, it certainly makes it look like when she kills He Who Remains, the multiverse starts to peel, and you were going to see it later in this trailer in one specific scene that all hell has broken loose at that Citadel. In the meantime, you've got Mobius taking Loki to go see OB, which is short for a name I can hardly say, Ouroboros. That's why they call him OB. That refers to a symbol of a snake eating its tail, or rather a circle, in the same way that Mobius, a Mobius strip, is a circle as well. Basically, their names are just allegorical for the flat circle of time that we're seeing constantly represented during Loki and, of course, during the Kang scenes of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Two quick things I want to point out about this scene before we go on. They've continued using green and orange throughout all of the TVA. Remember, the director said this was a specific production detail in order to give it a vintage feel. They've definitely done that here with flying colors, pun totally intended. It was also heavily rumored that Kiwi Kwan's character OB would be basically the Q of the TVA, or in charge of all of their technology. That's confirmed here. You can clearly see on the desk in front of him it says repairs and advancements, and of course he's who they go to see to fix Loki's time slipping. Now, during this trailer, there are a ton of quick one-off shots and frames, way more so than the Marvels, and honestly that's what took so long to get the Easter egg video done. But these are some of my favorite from the trailer. In the next couple of frames, while Loki explains he's getting pulled through time, you can clearly see two jet skis on either side of him. Now, because of the cars that we can see parked up along the street for the frames before and after it, this looks like it's in current time, but this obviously pays off the huge Season 1 Easter egg, the monologue by Mobius about a jet ski being the perfect meeting of form and function in technology, and is setting up a huge payoff, obviously seeing him on one of these by the end of the season. Now, after Loki nearly encounters another version of himself at the TVA, which he will later in this trailer, there's this very weird scene of lines getting created in front of Sylvie as the background around her looks like it's changing, and I do not want to spend more than a minute trying to explain this, because there are videos dedicated to this on YouTube that are over an hour long and could explain it better than I ever could. But there is one description of reality as a countless entanglement of points that happen just like we're seeing here with these strings. Again, I could explain it in my very bad terms and try to spend 5 minutes on it, but just know that there are people who believe that existence is a bunch of these strings of probability coming together to form fixed points, and that's what I think we're seeing here in this frame. Sylvie is watching reality change right before her eyes. Okay, so the next meaningful scene we've already seen in previous promos, where he burns away the TVA wall to reveal the three Kangs, obviously the same Kang statue that's in the lobby, and this causes Mobius to use his boot to kick the very last button on the elevator and bring them all the way back to 1893 at the World's Columbian Exposition, also known as the Chicago World's Fair, and we know that's where they're at because during that World Fair, they introduced the Ferris wheel, which is figured prominently into the scene here with Ferris wheel even written underneath it. You can think of this basically as the real-life Stark Expo that happened in 1893 and has since been referred to academically in the past tense as a, quote, influential social and cultural event that had a profound effect on American architecture, the arts, and American industrial optimism. Now, there are a bunch of frames here that literally are only for a couple of seconds or even a half a second, and we'll talk about some of them in a second, but the two frames I want to focus on is one, the shot of the Citadel, where it looks like the multiverse at this point has completely gone insane. The next is what Mobius is doing right here and what we can see in frame. Okay, so let's start with the multiverse at this point, and as I mentioned right after the prologue, there have been so many films like Multiverse of Madness, shoot even at this point into the Spider-Verse, that have had an effect on the multiverse. And again, at the end of Loki season 1, it certainly appears as though Sylvie killing He Who Remains is the impetus for the multiverse breaking apart, but there have been so many instances of incursions and multiversal interference at this point between Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, his variants, that you have to imagine the real consequences of the multiverse breaking apart like this. I'm pretty sure this is at the end of the series, and I think it's foreshadowing that we can only go maybe a couple of projects further before no project is able to not acknowledge what's going on with the multiverse. And that's when we heard that part of the MCU could actually take place in Battleworld. I think that's becoming more and more likely because they've been able to play it safe with these TV shows and movies and not really acknowledge the multiverse in every single project, but pretty soon here they won't be able to not do that. Now in this next frame, we sort of know what this is from plot rumors and leaks, so I will give you guys the lightest of spoiler warning here. We can speculate, but it's almost as good as confirmed now that we're seeing it, so if you want to back out, I'll give you about 3 more seconds. In the meantime, the TVA has to have a power source, how they run all of their technology. It's been rumored it's something called Time Loom, and so based on that, I'm speculating that this is Mobius attempting to fix whatever is the source of their power. You can clearly see this sort of looks like it's an electrical, maybe a wire that's been severed. I think he needs to fix that because we do see several frames sprinkled in here, especially at the end where it looks like the TVA is maybe going haywire and or breaking. I think that's because they're losing their power source, and we'll talk about what my theory is as to why that's happening in just a second. But there are so many loaded frames at the end of this, we're just going to rapid fire them as evidence of the fact that the TVA is breaking. You can see the TVA door there glitching behind Hunter B-15. Things are not as they seem. Some of these shots are set in the 70s. That's a character rumored to be X5. He's a TVA agent who apparently took a temp pad and took off to become a Hollywood star, because why wouldn't you if you had that ability? Why we see multiple versions of Loki there, not exactly clear yet, but again, you continue to see frames of the TVA going haywire. We then see Ravonna Renslayer not only in the 1800s setting of where we'll see Victor Timely, but given the purple hue here without seeing Alioth on screen and seeing the wind, this certainly makes me feel like they're in the void. That tells me at least at one point Ravonna Renslayer, or what is a variant of her, is going to get pruned. We then see the TVA screen with those same lines we talked about earlier in this video. I know I did a terrible job of explaining it. I will take one more shot. It is said in certain parts of string theory and or quantum theory that basically reality is just infinite probability constantly intertwining and untwining to make points in reality. That's where you see the TVA here. Thank you for your service going down. Definitely miss minutes saying the end. Like the TVA is going under. This is the end of it. And I think that's where the TVA is going to come down to because of the ultimate loss of power from the sacred timeline. He Who Remains was only in power because he was able to unite that sacred timeline, prune all the branches. And I believe that given what we saw there with Mobius trying to fix this, that it was that sacred timeline that provided the quote-unquote time loom that ran the TVA. Now that the sacred timeline has completely been busted apart, there is no time loom, there is no sort of dam for him to control the power of it and give it to somewhere like the TVA, which means the TVA is going to completely go under. Now, I definitely want to touch on the fact that, as we said about 2 months ago here at the channel, and coming from my source that has had a lot of exclusives recently and has been correct with all of them, whatever Jonathan Majors shot as Victor Timely, as He Who Remains, as Kang, whatever variants might show up during the series, it has been reported to me from my sources that those were not taken out. So at least for right now, whatever Jonathan Majors did for Loki Season 2 will stay intact. We don't know where that's going to go from there, but it's also been said that he's not going to be the main villain. That yes, obviously during at least one scene, Victor Timely terrorizes everybody at the World's Fair with some sort of prototype giant Miss Minutes. I think a lot more likely the show is going to look to focus on characters like Loki, Loki's counterpoint Sylvie, and even Mobius. We know we'll see Mobius again in the upcoming Deadpool film, and fingers crossed, that's hopefully what a post-credit scene can be after we got no post-credits at all during Secret Invasion, which you might have noticed since the Secret Invasion finale. I haven't done a single video here on the channel. There is a good reason for that. I am doing one. It's just taking a little bit longer and a lot more work than my normal video. When I put it up, you guys will see why. Now, in the meantime, the last thing I want to talk about is this quick shot of the murals that are there for Loki. You can see here, Mobius is in the foreground. Loki's going mural by mural, explaining what he's just learned from He Who Remains. I expect this to be in the same place when he reveals the other Kang heads. It's just a visual explainer so he can re-go over on screen while we watch it everything he's been told. And the reason I bring this up is because from the minute we meet He Who Remains, he tells us that a time long ago in the past, in the 31st century. Again, time is a circle to Kang. It just keeps happening over and over again, which means that the multiversal war of Kangs that has already happened, which led to He Who Remains having a sacred timeline, is about to happen again in the MCU. And I think that's how this specifically ties to what we saw in the stadium for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania with all of those versions of Kang. They're not going to war with each other, but remember, there's infinite Kangs. You can have them basically going to war with other Kangs or with the multiverse. And at some point, again, I think the Citadel, seeing the multiverse broken like this, the Kang war that's coming, I just don't see how the MCU will be able to do projects maybe after another year or so without acknowledging that the complete multiverse has become shambles at this point. And so when we heard rumors of every project basically existing in a battle world maybe after Deadpool and Wolverine, I think we may have to adjust that a little bit because Deadpool and Wolverine has been moved up. Well, with all of the strikes and delays, we may have to adjust everything. That being said, I think there's a real possibility here that wherever Loki Season 2 is set, that it is setting us up for the MCU to be in a completely different spot. Now, obviously, there are some Easter eggs in here I must have missed. I didn't get to touch on Sylvie in a McDonald's uniform and why she'd even be working at McDonald's, or some of the other smaller details. So if there's something that you caught specifically I didn't talk about that you think's worth mentioning, of course, leave it in the comments. The longer the delays go, the longer I'll have a shot to maybe run back over this or maybe cover the unreleased footage from some of the other teaser promos or D23 last year. So again, throw it in the comments. I'm all ears as always. Quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. All right, we are still giving away PlayStations here at the channel. The next one will be to coincide with the Loki season. We're also going to be doing some comic book giveaways at the end of this month and the beginning of next. The same rules will always apply for giveaways here at the channel. All you got to do be a subscriber, then leave a comment down below. Because it's truly random, the more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be announced at the end of videos, the same way we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. And as always, if you liked today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name is Michael Roman. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes under the name All Fires. Thanks for checking my music out. Thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.